The night she knocked on his door, the rain was falling like it had a grudge against the world, heavy and relentless, soaking through the thin hoodie she wore and the last bit of hope she carried. The porch light flickered above her head, and for a moment she wondered if this was a sign to turn back, to keep walking into the dark streets where no one asked questions and no one cared. Inside the house, a single dad stood frozen with his hand on the doorknob, sensing that whatever waited on the other side would change his life in ways he could not yet understand. Sometimes fate does not announce itself with grand gestures. Sometimes it simply knocks. Before the story goes any further, take a moment. If you believe in kindness, in second chances, and in the quiet power of doing the right thing when no one is watching, please like this video, comment your thoughts, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps stories like this reach hearts that need them. He had not planned on opening the door for anyone that night. Life as a single father had taught him to be careful, to protect what little stability he had built for himself and his young son after years of struggle. His days were long, filled with work that barely paid the bills, school runs, cooking simple meals, and falling asleep exhausted on the couch. Trust was a luxury he could not afford. Yet something about the knock, soft but desperate, pulled him from his routine. When he opened the door, he saw a girl who looked far younger than the world she had already faced. She was 18, though the shadows under her eyes and the way she held her arms close to her body made her seem older, worn by nights spent worrying where she would sleep. She did not beg, she did not cry. She simply stood there, wet and shaking, explaining in a quiet, broken way that she had nowhere to go. Her parents were gone from her life in every way that mattered. The system had failed her, and the friend whose couch she had been sleeping on had asked her to leave that very evening. Shelters were full. Phones had stopped answering. The streets were cold and unforgiving. She said she would understand if he closed the door. Most people did. The man felt the weight of the decision pressing on his chest. He looked back into his small home, at the modest furniture, the drawings taped to the fridge, the pair of tiny shoes by the door. He thought of his son asleep in the next room, trusting him completely. Fear whispered warnings in his mind, telling him to be smart, to be safe, to not invite trouble inside. But another voice, quieter yet stronger, reminded him of a time when he too had been lost, when a single act of kindness had kept him from falling apart. Against logic, against fear, he stepped aside and let her in. The warmth of the house hit her like a wave. She stood awkwardly near the door, unsure where to place herself, as if afraid to touch anything. He offered her a towel, a cup of hot tea, and the couch for the night. Nothing more, nothing less, just shelter. She nodded, gratitude filling her eyes, though she tried to hide it. That night, as the rain continued to pour outside, two broken lives rested under the same roof, unaware that they were about to begin healing each other. The days that followed were cautious and quiet. She woke up early, folding the blanket neatly, making herself as small and invisible as possible. She helped clean without being asked, washed dishes, and even packed the man's son's lunch with careful attention, though she never overstepped or assumed she belonged. The single dad watched her from a distance, noting how she flinched at loud noises, how she apologized for things that were not her fault, how she never ate much, as if saving food for later just in case. He began to understand that her wounds were not visible, but they were deep. Slowly, trust began to form, not through long conversations or dramatic confessions, but through ordinary moments, through shared meals eaten in silence but without tension, through evenings where the son would sit on the floor drawing, occasionally showing her his pictures, and she would smile at him with a gentleness that surprised even herself. Through mornings when the man left for work, knowing she would be there, keeping the house safe, not because he asked her to, but because she wanted to help. Her story revealed itself in fragments,
a childhood spent moving from place to place, never feeling wanted, a teenage life marked by mistakes born out of survival rather than rebellion, dreams that have been quietly buried because dreaming felt dangerous when reality was so unstable. She wanted to study, to build something of her own, but life had taught her not to expect too much. Listening to her, the man felt both anger at the world and a deep sense of responsibility, not because she was his burden, but because no one had ever taken responsibility for her before. Challenges soon emerged, whispers from neighbors who noticed an unfamiliar face, questions from coworkers who warned him about being too trusting. Financial strain grew heavier with an extra mouth to feed. There were nights when he lay awake wondering if he had made a mistake, if kindness would cost him more than he could afford. There were moments when she felt like leaving, packing her few belongings, and disappearing before she became a problem. Fear lived in both of them, quietly threatening to undo what they were building. But then there were moments of light. The first time she laughed, really laughed, at something silly the child said. The first time she spoke about her future without her voice shaking. The way the house began to feel warmer, not because of the heater, but because of shared presence. The man realized that his son had found something too, an older sister figure, someone who listened to his stories and made him feel important. In helping her, he was also giving his child a lesson in empathy and humanity that no book could teach.
As weeks turned into months, change became visible. The girl found a part-time job, saving every paycheck with determination. She enrolled in evening classes, walking there with a mix of fear and pride. The man helped where he could, offering rides, encouragement, and quiet support. He never treated her like a charity case. He treated her like family. And for the first time in her life, she began to believe that she was worthy of stability, of care, of a future. There were setbacks, days when memories overwhelmed her, when she questioned everything and wanted to give up. Days when the man struggled too, balancing work, parenting, and the emotional weight of protecting someone who had already been hurt so much. But they faced these moments together, not with dramatic speeches, but with patience, with understanding, with the simple act of staying. One evening, as the sun set softly through the window, the girl realized something that made her chest ache. She was no longer just surviving, she was living. The house that once felt temporary now felt safe. The man who once felt like a stranger now felt like the father figure she never had. And the child who had quietly accepted her into his world had given her a reason to be better, to be stronger. She understood that shelter was never just about a roof over one's head. It was about being seen, being valued, and being allowed to grow. Time continued to move forward, as it always does. The girl eventually saved enough to rent a small place of her own. The day she packed her bags was filled with mixed emotions, gratitude, sadness, pride, and fear all tangled together. The man watched her go with the quiet satisfaction of knowing he had done the right thing, even though the house would feel emptier without her presence. He did not see her leaving as loss. He saw it as success. Years later, their lives remained connected. She built a career she once thought impossible, carrying with her the lessons learned in that small, warm house. The man continued raising his son, who grew up understanding that kindness was not weakness and that helping someone could change the course of multiple lives. They never forgot the night it all began, the rain, the knock, the choice that altered everything. If this story has touched your heart even a little, please take a moment right now to comment. Share what kindness means to you, or a time when someone helped you when you needed it most. Your words might inspire someone else who feels alone. As this story comes to a close, remember this:
Sometimes the smallest acts of courage are not loud or celebrated. Sometimes they happen behind closed doors, in quiet houses, on rainy nights. A single dad offering shelter to a lost girl did not just give her a place to sleep, he gave her a future. And in return, she reminded him of the power of compassion in a world that often forgets it. If this story moved you, if it made you feel something deep and real, please like, share, and subscribe. Your engagement helps keep these stories alive, reaching hearts that need hope. Because kindness, when shared, has a way of coming back in ways we could never imagine.